My name is Ava Carter, and I was 31 years old when everything in my life went silent. I lived in Los Angeles, a huge, bright city full of noise, traffic, lights, and people who always looked like they were late for something. I had lived there for years. I had a job, a routine, a life that looked perfectly normal from the outside. And I had a boyfriend. His name was Ryan. We were together for 5 years. We shared an apartment in Echo Park with tall windows and gray walls and a balcony that overlooked the city lights. Then one morning, without warning, Ryan told me he didn't love me anymore. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He just said the words calmly, like he was saying he didn't want coffee today. Then he packed a bag and left the apartment, just like that. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't follow him down the hall. I just stood there, frozen. And after a while, I sat on the sofa. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that felt heavy, like it was pressing down on my chest. I could hear the refrigerator humming and a clock ticking on the wall. I could hear my own breathing, slow and scared. I didn't cry. Not that day, not the next, not the week after. I didn't feel anything. Not sadness, not anger, not confusion. Just emptiness. Hollow space inside my chest where my heart used to be. Every day became a copy of the day before. Wake up, shower, go to work, come home, heat up dinner for one, watch something meaningless on TV, go to bed, repeat. My life felt like faded wallpaper there, but unnoticed. One morning, after another night of staring at the ceiling instead of sleeping, I sat up in bed and looked around my room. The same lamp, the same closet, the same quiet. Something inside me whispered, "Enough." I didn't need answers. I didn't need closure. I needed air. I needed space. I needed a place where my heart could breathe again, or at least remember how to. So I grabbed my phone. I typed, "Small, quiet coastal towns in California." Dozens of results appeared, but one photo caught my attention instantly. A small coastal town with colorful houses, mountains behind it, and the Pacific Ocean stretching out like a soft blue blanket. It looked peaceful. It looked slow. It looked like a place where people actually stopped to feel things. The town was called Crescent Bay. I booked a room in a small guest house. I packed one small bag, just clothes, a notebook, and a few pencils. And the next morning, I left. The bus ride from LA felt long, but I didn't mind. I sat by a window and watched the city fall away, tall buildings shrinking, the traffic fading, the concrete turning into long stretches of open road. Then trees appeared, pine trees, hills, and finally, the ocean. It was wide and calm and endless. The bus stopped near the center of Crescent Bay. When I stepped off, the air hit me first cool, salty, clean. It smelled like pine trees and ocean mist. Something inside me loosened, just a little. The guest house was a short walk away. The owner, an older woman named Margaret, welcomed me with a warm smile. "Long trip?" she asked. "Feels like it," I said. She laughed gently and showed me to my room on the second floor. The room was small but bright, with a wooden floor, a single bed, a small desk, and a window facing the street. Nothing fancy, but it felt safe. I put my bag on the chair and sat on the bed. The room was quiet, just like my apartment, but it was a different kind of quiet, not heavy, just empty, neutral. I needed to move, so I walked to the window and looked outside. Crescent Bay was small and charming, yellow houses, blue doors, narrow streets, a tiny market, and the ocean sparkling at the end of the road. Beautiful. But beauty didn't fix loneliness. I still felt hollow, like I was a visitor inside my own body. I left the room and walked outside. The sun was warm. The sky was perfect. I walked past the market, past a bakery that smelled like heaven, past small shops with little open signs leaning slightly sideways. Finally, I reached the beach. It was empty. Just me and the ocean. I stepped onto the sand. The waves came in, and then they went out, slow, steady. The rhythm felt like breathing. I sat down, hugged my knees, listened to the wind, watched the waves. Everything around me was peaceful, but inside me, everything was still numb. I stayed there until the sun began to set. Then I walked back to the guest house, feeling heavy, tired, lonely. That night, I lay in bed listening to the ocean through my window. I closed my eyes. Maybe tomorrow will be different, I whispered. But I didn't believe it. The next morning, I woke up early and went downstairs. Margaret was in the kitchen making coffee. The smell made the room feel warm. "Good morning," she said. "Sleep well?" "Yes," I lied. She poured coffee for me. It was strong and hot. I held the cup in both hands. "What will you do today?" she asked. I shrugged. "I'm not sure." She wiped her hands on a towel. "There's a walking tour at 10. A young man named Ethan leads it. He's wonderful, knows every stone and every story in this town." I didn't want a tour. I didn't want people, but I also didn't want to sit alone again. So I nodded. "I'll go." At 10, I walked to the old church, the meeting point. 5 tourists were already there laughing, taking pictures, talking loudly. I stayed a few steps away. Then someone walked toward us. A young man, a warm smile, a small canvas bag slung across his body. "Good morning," he said. "I'm Ethan Hale, and welcome to Crescent Bay." He wasn't tall. He wasn't model handsome. He wore a simple shirt, faded jeans, and dusty shoes. But his eyes were kind, genuine, and his smile looked like it belonged to someone who didn't rush through life. We started walking. The tourists stayed close to him, constantly asking questions. I walked behind the group, quiet. Ethan stopped at different buildings. He didn't just share history, he told stories. This bakery? Rosa owns it. She's 73. She wakes up at 4 every morning to bake. Says the sunrise gives the bread its soul. He talked about the fishing boats at the harbor. My grandfather had a boat just like these. He said the ocean teaches patience. Every word he said felt honest and warm, like he loved this town with all his heart. We walked to a lookout point where the entire town was visible. Ethan stood there silently, smiling at the view like it was an old friend. I didn't plan to speak, but something inside me did. "How long have you lived here?" I asked. Ethan turned and looked at me, really looked at me. His eyes didn't pass over me like most people's did. He saw me. "My whole life," he said, "born here. I'll probably die here." "Don't you ever want to leave?" I asked. "No," he said simply. "This is home. These are my people. Why would I want anything else?" I didn't know how to reply. He looked at me for a moment longer, then asked softly, "Where are you from?" "Los Angeles," I said. "And why did you come here?" I looked out at the ocean, its quiet power stretching endlessly. "I needed to be somewhere new," I said. He nodded, not asking anything more. That tiny respect, his silence felt like comfort. The tour ended. The other tourists left. I stayed. I didn't know why. Ethan smiled at me. "Thanks for listening," he said. "Thanks for sharing," I replied. He walked away. I watched him go. Something tiny and warm flickered in my chest. The first thing I had felt in months. The next day, I wandered around the town alone. I felt lighter just a little, enough to notice the world instead of hiding from it. I found a small coffee shop with 3 tables outside. I sat at one, ordered coffee, watched the world. People smiled at each other, chatted, laughed. It felt foreign, but beautiful. Then someone stepped outside from the cafe. Ethan. He saw me, smiled, walked over. "We meet again," he said. My heart did something strange. It jumped. He asked if he could sit. I said yes. We talked about the town, about the weather, about dreams. I told him I wanted to paint someday. He didn't laugh, didn't tell me to be realistic. He just said, "You should do it. The light here, it's good for painting, really good." Something inside me cracked open just a little. Warmth slipped in. Before leaving for another tour, he turned and asked, "Do you want to see something special tomorrow? A place only I know." My heart leaped. "When?" I asked. Right here." "I'll be here." And for the first time in months, I felt excited for tomorrow. Truly excited. The week after the restaurant incident passed strangely fast. Ava tried to convince herself she was fine. She worked, she slept, she kept up her routines. But something had changed subtle, like a thin crack running along glass. Every morning she woke expecting her world to wobble. Every night she glanced at Landon and wondered what else she didn't know. And yet, he behaved as if nothing had happened. No yelling. No cold silence. No apology either. Just a warm smile, a kiss on her forehead, and a calm voice asking, "Coffee? I made it the way you like." Ava hated how her heart softened every single time. Because that was the thing about Landon. He knew exactly how to be perfect. And perfect men were sometimes the most dangerous. One night, Ava stood near the living room window, staring out at the city lights. Everything outside looked alive, cars rushing, people laughing, distant music. But inside the apartment, there was a stillness that didn't feel comforting anymore. Landon walked in, loosening his tie, his expression soft. "You seem quiet," he said. "Just tired," she whispered. He stepped closer, gently brushing her cheek with his thumb. Ava felt her breath catch. His touch was tender, almost painfully tender. "You know I adore you," he murmured. She closed her eyes. "I know." But she didn't know anymore. Not really. Not after seeing how tightly he controlled his emotions. Not after realizing he could snap from charming to furious in seconds. Still, he held her that night, arms wrapped around her waist, chin on her shoulder, his warmth pressing into her back. And against her will, Ava leaned into him. The message she wasn't supposed to see. 3 days later, while Landon showered, Ava heard his phone buzz. One buzz, then another, then 3 more, urgent, rapid. She shouldn't look. She told herself to walk away. But instinct whispered louder than morality. Ava picked up the phone. 2 messages flashed on the screen. "You're losing control. Take your meds. You know what happens when you don't." Her stomach turned. Before she could process anything, the water stopped. Ava panicked, placed the phone exactly the way it had been, and rushed to the kitchen, pretending to look for a snack. Landon walked out shirtless, towel around his neck. He looked calm, too calm. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes, why?" "Because your hands—" He lifted one of her hands gently. "They're shaking." She forced a smile. "I'm just cold." He stared at her for a long time, eyes searching, deep, unreadable. Then his lips curved slowly. "Come here," he said softly. Ava obeyed. But her heart beat painfully, knowing something was unraveling behind the scenes. More perfect than real. The next morning, Landon woke her with breakfast in bed. Pancakes, strawberries, coffee. Everything exactly the way she loved it. Ava stared at him, confused. "Why are you staring?" He laughed lightly. "You didn't have to do all this." He leaned in and kissed her forehead. "Of course I did." But the sweetness only made her feel more uneasy. His kindness was too polished, too practiced, too compensating. As if he was smoothing over invisible cracks she hadn't discovered yet. And something in Ava whispered, "This is not love. This is control wearing a pretty mask." The day everything finally snapped full. That evening, Ava returned home later than usual. Work had run long. Her phone battery had died. When she stepped inside the apartment, Landon was sitting on the couch, still, silent, shoulders tense. He didn't look angry. He looked hurt. And somehow, that scared Ava far more. "I was worried," he said quietly. "My phone died," she explained. "I couldn't call." He nodded slowly. "Ava, I asked you to keep me updated," he whispered. The softness of his tone was more suffocating than shouting would have been. "I know," she said, "but it wasn't in my control." Still calm. Still polite. But his fingers were digging into the couch cushion so tightly that his knuckles had gone white. Ava noticed. He noticed her noticing. And suddenly the air thickened. "Come sit with me," he said. She hesitated. "I said, come here." The politeness vanished. Not loud, not violent, just sharpened. Ava sat down, her breath shallow. "You matter to me," Landon said, "more than anything." "I know," she whispered. "I need you safe. I need to know where you are. I need—" He cut himself off. A muscle in his jaw twitched. Then he exhaled slowly, forcing a smile, said, "I'm sorry," he said. "I don't want to overwhelm you." But Ava realized something. He wasn't apologizing for being controlling. He was apologizing for showing it. The notebook behind the bed. That night, when Landon finally fell asleep, Ava lay awake, replaying every conversation, every red flag she ignored. Then she noticed a small corner of something black sticking out from under Landon's side of the bed. A notebook. Her heart thudded. She waited until his breathing deepened, slipped out of bed carefully, and reached for it. The cover was plain. No name. No title. Inside, pages filled with dates, observations, and unsettling sentences. "She hesitated today, needs reassurance. Keep interactions smooth. She responds well to gentleness. Control the environment. Avoid triggers, maintain perfection." Ava's blood ran cold. This wasn't love. This wasn't care. This was management. Monitoring, strategizing her emotions as if she were some experiment. She gasped softly. Landon shifted in bed. Ava froze. For 3 full seconds, she didn't breathe. Then Landon turned the other way, still asleep. Ava placed the notebook back and slipped silently out of the room. Her hands trembled. Her chest tightened. She needed air. She needed space. She needed to think. The night, she finally saw the truth. Ava stood in the hallway, leaning against the wall, heart pounding like a drum inside her ribs. She whispered to herself, "What am I doing here?" A moment later, the bedroom door opened. Landon stood there, half asleep, hair messy, but his eyes were alert. "Ava," he said softly, "why are you awake?" She swallowed. "I just needed water." Oh. He took a step closer. "Come back to bed. It's late." Something in his voice made her stiffen. Too smooth. Too soft. Too controlling. Ava didn't move. Landon lifted his hand and gently touched her face, tilting her chin up. "I don't want you wandering around at night," he said. "It's not safe." Her breath hitched. "Landon," she whispered, "I need space." The silence that followed was terrifying. His hand froze midair. His expression didn't change, but his eyes darkened slowly, deeply. "Ava." His voice almost broke. Why would you say that? She stepped back, feel overwhelmed. Landon blinked once, then twice. Then the smile returned, perfectly placed, perfectly warm, perfectly wrong. I understand, he said. You're tired. Come, rest. But Ava realized it in that moment. He wasn't hearing her. He wasn't understanding her. He wasn't letting her breathe. He was recalibrating, adjusting, correcting, trying to remain perfect while tightening control. Ava knew then, if she stayed, she would slowly lose herself. The escape plan, forming in the dark. When Landon went back to bed, Ava stood still for a full minute, shaking. Then she walked to the window, pulled her phone charger from her bag, plugged in her phone, and waited. She didn't know exactly what she would do, but she knew she needed a plan. A real one. Because Landon wasn't just a good man with a temper. He was a man who engineered every detail of their relationship. A man who monitored her reactions. A man who crafted perfection the way others crafted lies. And perfection could be the most dangerous prison? Ava whispered to herself. Tomorrow. I start tomorrow. Ava woke up before sunrise, heart pounding, mind already racing. Landon slept beside her, his arm draped across her waist, heavy like a lock. She stared at the ceiling, knowing one thing for certain. She couldn't live another day like this. Slowly, inch by inch, she slid out from under his arm. He didn't move. She held her breath anyway. Every second felt like it echoed. Ava dressed quietly, grabbed her phone, and stepped into the hallway. Her hands shook as she opened the closet. She took only essentials: wallet, keys, Idaho. Nothing more. Nothing that would make noise or raise suspicion. She didn't know where she was going. Only that she needed distance. As she reached for the apartment door, her phone lit up. Good morning, beautiful. A text. From Landon. Her blood froze. He was awake. Before she could react, she heard footsteps behind her, slow, controlled, familiar. Ava? His voice was soft. Too soft. She turned. He stood in the dim hallway, expression unreadable, hair messy, eyes sharp. Where are you going? He asked, and her throat tightened. I needed fresh air. He took one step closer, then another. Without waking me, he whispered, without saying anything. Ava's grip tightened on the door handle. I didn't want to bother you. Landon stared at her for a long, suffocating moment, his jaw tense, his breathing shallow. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. A slow, unsettling smile. You don't need fresh air, he said gently. You need rest. Come inside, please. Ava's heart hammered. This was it. The moment she would either step back into the cage or run. Her fingers twisted the door handle, and she whispered, I can't do this anymore. Then she ran. Ava sprinted down the stairwell, her breaths sharp and uneven. Every step echoed like a warning. Every shadow felt like it belonged to him. Behind her, the apartment door slammed open. Ava. Landon's voice ricocheted down the concrete walls. Not angry, not shouting. Worse, calm, contained, controlled. Ava, stop. You'll hurt yourself. She ran faster. Her hands trembled as she pushed through the building's back exit. Cold air hit her face. Dawn had barely broken. The world was quiet, colorless, asleep. She darted across the parking lot. Behind her, footsteps approached, slow at first, then quicker. Please don't run from me, Landon called. Just talk to me. Talk. That word sounded like another cage. Ava reached her car, fumbled with her keys, her fingers shaking so badly she kept missing the slot. Come on, she whispered, voice cracking. Please, please. The footsteps stopped a few feet behind her. Ava. She froze. He didn't touch her. He didn't yell. He didn't try to stop her physically. He just stood there, breathing hard, chest rising and falling, eyes wounded. You're scared of me, he whispered. Tears blurred her vision. I don't feel safe, she said. The truth tasted metallic. Landon's face shifted pain, confusion, then something darker. I love you, he said, voice trembling. I do everything for you, everything. That's the problem, Ava breathed. It's all too much. His jaw tightened. So you want to leave me? He asked quietly. I need space, she said. I need myself back. His eyes glistened. For the first time, Landon looked truly human, broken, without his perfect mask. He stepped back, hands shaking. I can fix this, he murmured. Just tell me how. Ava shook her head slowly. It's not something you can fix. Silence. A long, unbearable silence. Then Landon did something she didn't expect. He moved aside, not towards her, not towards the door. He stepped away from the car. Ava, if you really want to go, his voice cracked, then go. Her breath caught. He wasn't letting her go out of understanding. He was letting her go because he believed she'd come back. Because in his mind, she always would. Ava climbed into the car, closed the door, and started the engine. Her hands were still shaking, but her decision was steady. She looked at him one last time. Landon stood motionless in the orange glow of the early morning, eyes fixed on her with a calmness that terrified her more than rage ever could. She whispered, "Goodbye," though he couldn't hear it. Then she drove away. And for the first time in a long time, Ava could breathe. Ava didn't stop driving until the city faded behind her. She pulled into a quiet rest area, turned off the engine, and let the silence wrap around her. For the first time, the world felt real. Not perfect, not controlled, just real. Her phone buzzed. One message from Landon. Are you safe? Not where are you? Not come back. Just that. Ava stared at the screen, tears filling her eyes. She typed slowly. Yes, I just need time. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Finally, his reply came. I never wanted to trap you. I just didn't know how to love without losing control. I'm sorry. Ava wiped her cheeks. She knew he meant it. But she also knew meaning it wasn't enough. She typed back, Take care of yourself, Landon. No more. No promises. No openings for him to pull her back. Minutes passed before his final message arrived. Goodbye, Ava. Simple, heavy, final. Ava leaned her head back and exhaled shakily. Her chest hurt because endings always hurt, even the right ones. But beneath the ache, something new stirred. Freedom. Her own heartbeat. Her own future. She stepped out of the car and felt the cold morning breeze on her skin. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe. But it was hers. Ava whispered into the quiet air, I'm finally starting over. And for the first time, she truly believed it. And that's how Ava finally found her freedom, her happiness, and a life she truly deserved. Sometimes letting go is the bravest choice we can make. If you felt this story, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications for more emotional and captivating stories like this.